place. And if prohibition is meant to protect us, I guess the most obvious question is, does the prohibition work?
If prohibition worked, okay, if you could just wave a magic wand and say, this has gone away, I'd be all over it, you know. But the fact of the matter is that prohibition has never worked.
You know, we've been here before. You remember the first prohibition, right? Which was?
Prohibition of alcohol.
No, I'm talking about the first prohibition. Thou shalt not partake of the fruit of the tree of knowledge. And who was the big cop? And how many people did he have to watch? 2.
So what are the dangers of using marijuana?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Gives you like a rapid heartbeat.
Smoker's cough.
I'm sure it has some effect on your brain function, memory.
I don't know, is there something unhealthy about moving slowly?
It's not good for you.
You're not fully conscientious of what you're doing.
Thicken some membranes in your brain or something.
Well, it's been science. I guess I'm being told it's been scientifically proven that marijuana kills your brain cells.
That's the one I remember. Marijuana kills brain cells.
I thought the same thing. You know, I didn't start smoking pot until about 5 years ago. I thought pot made you stupid. You know, I bought into it just as much as anybody did. I realized when I was like 30 years old that I was tricked. I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
There you go, Joe Rogan. The film is called Union, The Business of Getting High, and the guys who made it. Adam Scorgi, Brett Harvey are here. Nice to see you guys, man. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
See you. All right, I loved a couple things. I mean, the dude saying that Adam and Eve, that was the first prohibition. I didn't know that. That's interesting. And what Joe Rogan talked about is also interesting because a lot of people feel that way. But I want to start with this. When you set out to make a film and you're doing a film about the business of marijuana, did you know what you were going to get? Like, what did you learn from the process?
Well, I was actually dead set against marijuana when I was younger. I used to actually, when we first started, I used to get, my brother smoked weed, and I used to get on him all the time. I actually, like, threatened to take him outside, and I was like, you smoke that? You know, But we just wanted to do an expose of the BC industry because it's known, like I lived in New York and in Texas where people knew about it. The only thing they knew about BC, they didn't even know Vancouver, but they're like, BC Bud, man. Heard about BC Bud. Yeah. So I grew up around a lot of guys that were growing and stuff like that. So, and you know, everyone was always so interested in like how they stole the power, how they'd set up a fall guy, how they'd deliberately buy a house and put a low-level guy in there to run it for them and stuff. And people were like, wow, I can't believe it.
They buried trains underground and turned the train cars into grow-ops.
Yeah. So we originally just set out to do that. And then as we were, meeting people like Larry Campbell, Senator of the Senate of Canada, former RCMP of the drug squad, also Mayor of Vancouver and the police chief of Seattle and doctors and stuff, and found out that all the stuff that we were told, we were lied to, just like Joe Rogan says, like, man, it's not what the media has told you. Is a lot of it is lies and it's false. And we were like, wow, we thought we knew a lot and we knew nothing. So like, we have to put that in the film. We thought it just hadn't been done.
What's interesting about the film is that, I mean, I don't smoke pot, but I don't care if people do. And partway through the movie, I'm like, I want to start rocking the ganj because, and I mean, while I didn't that night, I didn't that night. It's not readily available in my house. My cats are heavy chronic, but I was watching the film and I was like, there isn't a lot of the other side. And then doing the research on you guys, like, was it difficult to get people to take the opposing view that pot's bad for you?
The big eye-opener of all this was when growers started telling us that they wanted it, or didn't want it legal, which to us, we're sitting there going, wait a minute, something's wrong here. The people that are going to be arresting stuff don't want it legal. So from there, that's where it kind of went into this thing of we started looking into this other stuff. And yeah, we had people that on the other side of things that weren't as keen to talk with us. And it became very, very apparent.
Who else doesn't want it legal? Like, I'm sure there's more than just high-level drug dealers that don't want it legal.
Law enforcement is a big one. I mean, that's what the former police chief of Seattle talks about, and Jack Cole, who was an undercover narcotics agent. Because, I mean, if you look at the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, their budget is to enforce the drug laws, right? Yeah. So if you were to take that money that is used for law enforcement and for those agencies and put it towards just busting murderers, rapists, and something else, that's a big chunk of their budget that's taken away. Plus, when you bust someone like a murderer or rapist, you don't get to seize money that they have in their house or assets because they're proceeds of crime, right? With the drug industry, you do. It is, self-perpetuating. It's an industry that revolves on.
And that plays into the bigger picture, which is what we try to get at in the film. It's almost as if we built up a marijuana prohibition complex at this point, which is in the sense that there's so many industries out there that they're not, maybe not necessarily directly trying to prevent marijuana from becoming legal, but they have interest in keeping the status quo with it. Whether it is the pharmaceutical industry, whether it is private prisons or the prison system in general in the United States, which is now exploding. There's all these different elements and budgets that are built on that play into this thing that keep it kind of where it is.
Why would the prisons want marijuana to be illegal?
Well, if you look at the budgets on it, it's huge. And even though they tell you that people still aren't being arrested for marijuana in the United States, there's still nearly 1 million people every year, and that keeps going up. Like last year was 850,000. They're arrested for simple possession, and you got about 50,000 people in prisons and jails in the United States right now. So, to say that that's the only reason, well, no. But all this stuff plays into it. If you look at some of the bills that get put out there in the United States for, moving towards a more decriminalized or legalized model, a lot of the people that are going to be against it are going to be unions and stuff like that.
But isn't that a ruse? Like, I used to hear the former government of this country talking about decriminalizing marijuana, which sounds like a no move. Because how do you decriminalize something, but then it...
Exactly.
What does that mean?
That's the thing. Like, we had the former police chief of Seattle talk to us about, and then Senator Larry Campbell, both cops, they said it sends out a bad message because, you're not going to go to jail for a decriminalized model, but you're still being told it's no, 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 and it doesn't address anything. It doesn't deal with organized crime and stuff like that, right? Because then they're going to still do it. I mean, whether the laws are the death penalty or it's decriminalized, they're still going to grow it. And if you're just making available for people, well, then they're going to still be, they're able to smoke and they only get a fine, but where are they getting it from, right? Because it's not decriminalized, so there's still criminals growing it, so you buying it is probably still illegal, right? Just smoking it or whatever would be the decriminalized model, so it sends out a bad message.
You hear people talk about tax dollars. Now, it's Institute said it was a $7 billion industry in British Columbia, but I think it's because I think it's an artificial price, for what marijuana costs, that if you actually did make it a legal substance, that's going to drop significantly.
Completely.
So the tax dollars aren't going to be... would taxing marijuana make that big an impact on this country's government?
I mean, you don't know. That's something it's just speculation. They're just economists taking numbers of what they think the illegal industry is doing. They say anywhere from $4 to $7 billion industry. Right? It's hard to follow a black market economy of where that's all coming into, but...
Snoop Dogg alone is $2 billion.
Yeah.
And that's why he always plays Cam Loops, because there's money there.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
There's other costs, though, that are involved with this. Like, so you legalize it. Yeah, you have the money that comes from taxing it. You also have the money that comes from us not having to enforce all these laws anymore. Like, we spend about $400 million in Canada every year on enforcing these laws.
I wonder if we're just at this stage now where... Look, there's still a bunch of old guard running this continent. In 10 years from now, we're not having this debate.
Yeah.
Because with the Paul Martin government, there was a shot where it could have been decriminalized. That's the first step. Yeah. Like, are we just at a point? The tipping point is coming, and eventually this, people watch your film in school back in the day when marijuana was.
You would like to think so. That's what we would hope. But Lester Grinspoon, who was the doctor from Harvard, he was saying, at the time when he wrote his marijuana paper, I think it was called Marijuana Reconsidered, he was, suggesting that marijuana was going to become legalized within 10 years. And he had a friend, Carl Sagan, who actually said, I'm giving away the end of our film here, unfortunately.
So pessimistic.
But yeah, you're so pessimistic, and that was 45 years ago. So to say that, it's right around the corner, we would really like to think that. But
did you guys reluctantly become the pro-pot ambassadors in a way with this film?
Yeah, a little bit.
Like, everyone seems to think we're activists now. Like, just at the film festival I was at in Beloit, everyone was kind of like, well, what should we do now? What would you want us to do? I was like, we just made a film. Like, you watched it. That's what, tell other people about the film, right? Just educate yourself about it, because I mean, I was the same way. I thought I knew a lot, and I found out I really didn't know anything about it.
We could go on and on and on, but you should see the movie if you want to get more. It's called The Union, The Business of Getting High. Good to see you, man.
Thank you.
Thanks, George.
See you, man. Brett Harvey and Adam. The Hour. We'll be right back.